Well, to tell us more about the wider implications of this vote in Germany, we can speak once again to our international affairs editor, Douglas Herbert, who is with me here in the studio.
Morning again.
Good morning again. This is, of course, a domestic vote, which means so much to the average German on the street. But the aftershocks of this ballot will, of course, be felt further afield, especially in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, this is Germany's election, but more broadly speaking, Tom, it is Europe's election because as Germany goes, really Europe goes, for better or for worse. Over the past 16 years, the words we've associated with Merkel's leadership, for better or for worse, have been steady as she goes, compromise, consensual, at a time when there have been a lot of sort of centrifugal forces sort of pulling Europe away from a center, a lot of polarization, a lot of more extremist parties on both the right and on both the left. Merkel has been sort of this, known quantity, if you will, at the center of it all, holding things together. Not everyone has loved her policies. A lot of people thought she was a stick in the mud and she wasn't ambitious enough or she was change averse. But whatever you may think, she has sort of been the glue, the cohesiveness there on the world stage. And that is what a lot of Europeans, whether they even know it or not right now, might be missing down the road. Because sure, Germany does need reforms. We know it for its bureaucracy, its investment, climate, all of that. Europe as a whole, though, has sort of looked to Merkel at key moments over the past, 16 years, whether we're talking about the Eurozone crisis, holding things together, keeping Greece from crashing out of the Eurozone, which could have been the beginning of the end for the whole Eurozone, whether we're talking about Russia, its invasion, occupation of Crimea, its annexation of Crimea, sort of leading the European response on that issue, whether we're looking towards Brexit. You might say on none of these issues, Angela Merkel has been a very loud and raucous voice, but what she has been is she's been that sort of mediator, the mediator in a time where mediators were few and far between, able to hold Europe together. Brussels will be looking for some sense of stability, some sense of Merkel-like leadership from Germany, even if they're cognizant of the fact that Germany has to, in the years ahead, meet a lot of challenges, which will necessarily mean change in a country that has been more consensual and change-averse.
And even further afield, the next German chancellor will, of course, have to deal with a rising China and the issue of the US.
It's really interesting here because Merkel has taken a lot of flack from some quarters of Europe for not being confrontational enough or not aggressive enough, if you will, in her stance towards China. And what has that been dictated by? She has been steady as she goes, but obviously commercial interests. One of the big sort of themes of her premiership is why she supported the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline running from Russia to Germany. Well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that Germany, 44% of its electricity is carbon fuel generated. Gas is going to be a big factor in the energy equation. Germany's had a big problem going towards making that transition to renewables. So the relationship towards China in Germany has been dictated for a lot of more consensus. She has not been willing to tackle China or confront it head on because it's been in Germany's commercial economic interest not to do so. With Russia, she has been the traditional bridge to Putin, right? Former East German, grew up in East Germany, speaks Russian. Putin, worked in East Germany before he became president, speaks German. They've been able to speak to each other. They were the go-to leaders on each side for one and the other. They understood each other. So not having her there, people might end up actually missing some of that once again, that ability to act as a bridge and act as sort of a mediating, moderating influence. That said, there will be perhaps new forces in the coalition in Germany on China who will advocate for a much more, if not belligerent, much more activist, aggressive stance towards China, if not along the lines of the U.S., counter China at all costs position, at least something more Europe trying to bond together, unify itself, and take on China more ambitiously, more aggressively than we've seen. But so look for some sort of change on China-Russia, but perhaps not a radical one.
Douglas Herbert, our international affairs editor, thank you very much.